Welcome to another episode of Soap Thing Thoughts. There will be no guest today. Rather, I had a comment in the comment section of video number 207 from viewer JMW, and he happened to mention that he was curious about how content creators film and edit their shave videos. Well, I finally figured out how to show you, so that's going to be the focus of today's video. Now, if you're curious about how the videos actually get filmed, I'm going to direct you to video number 155. That is my tour of the Soap Thing Shave Den here at Incirlik Air Base in Turkey. And it shows you my countertop and both of my tripods and my entire setup and things like that. I've always been blessed with very large countertops for the entire duration of the Soap Thing project. With a few rare exceptions, I have never had to put my camera up on a shelf or on a suction cup on the mirror or anything like that. I've always been able to mount it on a tripod just to the right of the sink, sitting on the countertop. And for those of you who are curious what kind of camera I use a Sony ZV-1 with a Deity D3 Pro shotgun microphone mounted on a Joby tripod just to the right of the sink, just like I said. Now, the Soap Thing project editing of the videos starts with Adobe Photoshop Elements and Adobe Premiere Elements. What you see right now is Adobe Photoshop Elements. So I'm going to open the thumbnail and we're going to create the banner or the thumbnail for the YouTube video. So let's go to Open and go to Thumbnails. And right here is the thumbnail we're going to prepare for the video. And as you can see, it is the 345 Soap Company Night Shift Coffee and Donuts. Now, early on in the Soap Thing project, if you go back and look at some of my earlier videos, I would just take a photograph of the setup just like this and post the YouTube video just as you see it right here. But I quickly realized that these images just felt like something was missing. It needed text is what it really needed. So I think for this one, I'm going to play off of the fact that the Night Shift type is kind of an old-fashioned typewriter type font. So I'm going to hit the text tool and create a text box right here. Now we got to pick the font. Now I've downloaded all sorts of fonts and sound effects and licensed music from a couple different places. For those who are curious, I go to pond5.com and envatoelements.com. If you are in need of just a couple of pieces of music or sound effects or stock footage or things like that, and you're not going to use a lot of it, I recommend Pond5 because you can buy individual licenses just straight out. You don't need to have a subscription in order to get access to the licenses. In any case, let's pick the font. So I have a font in mind that I think will work perfectly, and that is called Abagnale. It's kind of a play on Frank William Abagnale. I don't know if you've ever seen Catch Me If You Can. But let's start typing out what we want the thumbnail to represent. I'm just going to type in right here, 345 Soap Company. And for some reason it's in white. Change that to black. There we go. Soap Co. Night Shift. And as you can see, this can stand to be quite a bit bigger. So I'm going to take it and let's just try 200. Maybe that'll be too big. I don't know. Let's try it. Yeah, that's slightly too big. So let's go back to 1. Put it 190. 190 looks like it's probably better. I don't want the text to be too close to the edges or too close to the bottom. Next thing I'm going to do is shorten the text box to better fit the size of the text, because believe it or not, that actually does affect the centering of the text when you want it to be centered on the image. So go ahead and zoom back out a little bit and take that. Conventional wisdom would say, well, the text looks like it centers itself as you're adjusting it, but I've actually noticed that if you don't have it like right where the size of the text is, it'll be off to one side or the other. I'm not sure if that's an optical illusion or if there's really some sort of problem with it, but I've just noticed that I get a more consistent centering when I do that. So here we have the text, and at face value it might look fine, but I always put a drop shadow against my text to kind of make it pop out of the image just a little bit. The problem with doing that is you can't do it with one-dimensional flat text because it doesn't look right. So we have to add some sort of an effect to this to make it a little more two-dimensional, I guess you could say. So the way we do that is go down here to the Effects tab. And what do I want to do? Let's see if there's anything in the Complex tab that would be worthwhile to use. I'm not seeing anything. Go down to Patterns. Maybe there's something there. Oops. Patterns. Maybe there's something in Patterns that can be used. What about this satin overlay? There we go. Let's see what that looks like. And as you can see, it gives it kind of a beveled effect. I mean, I have a beveling tool, but this kind of makes it like a more satin look and bevels it for you, so it no longer looks completely flat. Next thing I have to add is the drop shadow. And the one I always use is this one right here called Noisy, and it drop shadows the text. So I've got the text at about the height that I want it. Next thing I got to do is go ahead and center it. So I'm going to hit Control A and click middle. It's going to center it exactly in the center of the image. At one point I thought about making it a little bit higher, but the higher it goes, the more awkward it looks. It kind of looks out of place. And I think this is as high up as I want the text to go. Otherwise it's going to start looking weird. Next step with the thumbnail is we have to go over here to the right side where the effects are. And what this does is it gives all sorts of different effects to the image. Like you have cross-process, you have vintage looks. I'm sure you've seen that in some of my older videos where I'm doing like a vintage shave, and so I give the thumbnail a really vintage look. You can change it to represent certain seasons of the year. You can change it to look like a drawing. You can have this really weird toy camera effect. The ones I tend to use the most often is right here, Smart Looks. And I'm going to click on this one. It's going to open up a bunch of options. But to be honest with you, the one that it defaults to, I think is the one I like the best. It brings out the color more and just makes everything pop in a really, really bright way, if that makes any sense. I just like how this one looks the best. And so I'm going to take it as it is. Next thing I'm going to do is save it as a JPEG. Hit save. Make sure all the options are to the highest possible quality, and hit OK. Now the final thing we have to do actually takes place right here in the Windows Photos app, and I have to take the image and make it small enough that YouTube will accept it as a thumbnail for the video, because it can only be a maximum of 2 megabytes for the YouTube thumbnail. The image that goes into the video can be as big as I want it to be. So the original one is going to stay the original size, but I have to make another one and resize it so that YouTube will accept it as a thumbnail. So I'm going to try, it's at 9.4 megabytes right now. Let's try 40%. It can be a little bit bigger. 42, 43, 44, no, 43. Okay, and then I'm going to hit save and save it somewhere else, usually to the desktop, and I usually just put a in front of it so that I know it's the smaller version of the image, and then I hit save. And that's it. The rest of the video editing part itself actually happens in Adobe Premiere elements. So come on with me, let's head over there and I'll show you. Okay, here we are inside the Adobe Premiere elements. Now I'm not going to over explain this. It might look complicated at first glance, but it'll start to kind of make sense as we go. Now the editing of the videos itself takes place down here in what's called your timeline. I generally put the main clips of me shaving in the Video 2 and Audio 2 section, and then other sound effects and like the subscribe button and some other things will go either above or below it, depending on the circumstances, so it turns into this kind of stacked effect, if you will. So the first thing we got to do is go to Add Media, and we are going to be adding a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff. First thing I'm going to do is add the thumbnail that we just created right here, 345 Soapco Night Shift. And then I need to add the raw footage from the camera, which I'm fairly certain is these three right here. So let's go ahead and add those. Next thing we got to do is add all the effects, and there are quite a lot of effects in my videos. So let's go down to add-ons, always used, and I need this one because I'm pretty sure I used Sniffometer number 3 for this one. And then I need this, I need this, I need this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And we're not even done yet. I need to go in and add the crash car, crash tires, because that's the sound effect I use when I'm talking about the rev limiter and people peeling out. Okay, so I'm going to pick that one. And then I need the static TV and the static loopable. Where is it? Right here. Because I actually don't use the sound from this. I use a different sound and just carry over the footage of the TV static. And that should be everything. If I need to add something else, I'll go back later and add it. And right away I realized I forgot something. I have to add the music for the top-down shot of the lathering process. That is going to be, I'm pretty sure, in add-ons. Towards the top it should be right here, Bank Heist. I picked this one for the video because I thought it kind of matched the theme that we were going for with this. Let's add that. And I guess it's time to start in chronological order. So let's go ahead and take the Soap Thing intro and put it right here. Put that in first. Wait for it to catch up with me. And then in goes the picture, which is right there. Now the picture, whenever I put an image into the timeline, it defaults to 5 seconds long. Well, I need this one to be 6 seconds long. So I am going to take, I lied, it actually needs to be 8 seconds long. I'm trying out a new thumbnail jingle for this particular video and all subsequent videos going forward, so this one needs to be slightly longer because the thumbnail jingle is longer than the old one. Here it is right here. Now the audio is where things get complicated because not every clip has the same, I guess you could say, volume level. So a lot of the clips of me shaving, I tend to need to increase the audio gain in order for it to match some of the other clips, and then some of the other clips need to be detuned. They need to have the audio gain lowered in order to match some of the other clips and make it all even. Don't ask me why. I don't know if there's a better way to do that. If you got constructive criticism or some better idea, go ahead and send me an email or put it in the comment section of the video because I would love to hear it. In any case, the way I adjust the audio gain is I literally just play it by ear. I adjust it little by little until it sounds like it's about where it needs to be, and then we go from there. So for this one, I'm going to try -5 and see if it sounds about the way that the Soap Thing intro sounds. And right now that sounds pretty much fine. If I have to go back in and edit it later, I'll go ahead and do that. But for the sake of time, let's move on. So it's time to add the first clip of me actually doing the video. So we'll take this and click and hold and drag it in, just like you see right here. And for some reason, no matter how I set up my external mic versus my camera mic and my audio levels and things like that, it always ends up being a very quiet video clip. And so I have to add 11 decibels to this one so that it sounds even remotely close to the rest of the sound. And as I zoom out here, you can tell that there's a lot of breaks in the audio. So these little gaps right here is me not talking and resetting. So I actually filmed the intro to this video probably 4 times before I got it right. And here's the reason why I do that. I'm not here to give you an organic reaction. I'm here to give you information. And so priority 1 is not sounding like a doofus when I do it. You know, I can't help that when I'm doing the actual shave because I can't just scrap the footage and regrow 2 days of growth at the snap of a finger. But I can sure as hell redo the beginning and the end of the videos, and I quite often do that. Okay, here we are at what I think is the appropriate spot to cut off the excess footage. So I'm going to hit the scissor tool right here and cut off the excess, delete it, zoom out, and bring this footage all the way over to the left. And then we're going to zoom in, and now we need to add a transition, which is where this key over here comes in. And as you can see, there are lots of transitions to go from one piece of footage to the next. For this one, I think I'm just going to do something simple like this clock wipe right here. So let's go ahead and add it in right there. Back up the playback just slightly and see how it transitions. Welcome to another shave here on the Soap Thing project. Now the reason why I leave this gap here is because you don't want so little room that I start talking before you can even really see me, and I don't want to leave so much room that I'm standing there awkwardly staring at you before I start talking. And so that you got to really kind of bring this down to just the right length so that it's not socially awkward. Now from this point forward, it's actually kind of tedious and a little bit boring because I will actually watch the entire video and edit it as I go. So I'm not going to show you all of that because this video will take forever if I do. But here's what I'm going to do. Once I reach a spot where I need to add an effect, then I will hit the record button and I will show you how that effect is inserted into the timeline. And actually, before I forget, let's go ahead and add an effect. I always forget to add this until it's like the very end of editing. But I need to add my subscribe button. I almost always forget to do that until the very end. So this needs to go right about here. And as you can see, it is a green screen background effect. So if I go over here, it shows me. But here we have the effect with a green screen behind it. And that means I need to add a green screen key, which is where the effects button comes in. And I will just scroll down to green screen key. Add it to the effect, and it takes the green screen away but leaves the subscribe button in place. Okay, here's a spot where I actually need to add some text. So this part's pretty easy. I'll just go ahead and go to text, new text, default text, and it pops a text box up here, which is so small it's freaking asinine. I don't know why it defaults to being that small. But I'm going to go ahead and just set it to 200 just so that I can freaking see it. And this is a part of the video where I was unsure about what I was saying about the soap. And I said if I was wrong, I would put it at the bottom of the screen. Well, I was not wrong. So I'm going to just take this text right here and type correct. And I'm just going to go ahead and use the same Abagnale font that I used for the thumbnail. It's probably easier just to type it in, A, B, and then tab over. There we go. And it turns into that cool little typewriter type font. Make it black. And that could stand to be a lot bigger. I'm just going to go to 500 point. What does that look like? Oh yeah. Now we are cooking with gas. And it needs to be positioned in the lower third of the screen. Actually, this could stand to be lower. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and drop it down to about there. And then recenter it. And that's it. That is how you add text in Adobe Premiere Elements. Okay, here we are at the end of this clip. And this is the transition from the intro to the top-down shot of the lathering process. And as you can see, I already found a good spot to cut loose the footage, and so I'm going to get rid of the excess. Then go to Project Assets and take the top-down shot of the lathering process and put it in. And the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and get rid of the audio, because we don't need it. I always play music for this part. And the next phase is to just find where the clip actually starts, which is right about here. Zoom in. Right there is where it starts, and so let's back out to about here. Give me some editing room. Clip off the excess. Zoom out. Move it to the left. And then add the transition, which is the clock wipe. And let's see it. Let's do a shave. Boom. Perfect. And the next step is we got to take the music and put it in. And once you delete the original audio, this will just kind of slide in where the original audio would have been. That way it's not taking up any extra space above and below it and just kind of cluttering up the timeline. Now let's zoom out and see if the audio needs to come down, and yes it does. Let's try, just for the sake of consistency, doing a -6 decibels. Alright, let's back it up. Okay, let's do a shave. That's still a little bit loud. Let's do -7. Let's do a shave. That's better. Like I said, if it needs to come down again, I can do this off camera later in post-production. Okay, now I actually lucked out with this one. Normally, either this clip is too long, in which case I have to trim it down and put like transition points in here to make it to where it matches the length of the music, or the music is way too long and I have to chop the music off. In this case, it actually might flow pretty well with the end of the song or the music clip because they're both about the same length. So let's zoom on over here and take a look. Now we have to figure out a good place to end this, which I think is going to be right about here. Let's go right here. Then we need to get rid of the excess. Delete. Now it's time to add the third and final video, which is the shave and the post-shave review. And once again, this needs to come up by 11 decibels, just like the last one. Alright, I went ahead and sliced off the excess footage that was not necessary, so let's go ahead and take this and bring it back. And then obviously we need the clock wipe transition. And when we're going out of the lathering process and back to me, I always do a fade out. Let's just do a fade in and out of the music. And then I do a fade in of me. Let's try it. Sounds good to me. Okay, now it's time to add the sniff-o-meter, which is going to go right here. And this is supposed to be a 3-second image. And the easiest way to measure it Well, the quickest way is to use the correct answer ding, because this audio clip is exactly 3 seconds long. And so I just shoot over to the end of it, clip off the excess, and then I get rid of the correct answer ding. And now I have to go find the sniffing sound, which is right here. And once that's in place, I usually tend to drop the audio gain by about 7 for this one. And let's back out and see how it sounds. 3 out of 5 on the sniffometer. Sounds good to me. Okay, we are moving right along through the timeline, and here is a good place to stop and talk about using clips from movies or cartoons or other things that you've seen me do in the project. Now, when using licensed music, obviously I have to license that, otherwise I'll end up with copyright claims and copyright strikes and all sorts of problems that I've talked about in the past. But when I'm using footage from movies or cartoons, as long as there's not licensed music in it, that is covered under fair use. So I can get it from wherever I want and use it all I want, as long as I, in some way or another, change the context of the way it's being used, or the way it's being portrayed to the audience. So we're going to add a fair use clip from Looney Tunes in here, and I'm just going to back this all the way out and take the rest of the footage and move it way over here, and then add this clip in right here, which is a long Looney Tunes compilation clip. And I'm going to find the spot that I want and cut it out and delete the excess and insert it right here into the video. Okay, I have the Looney Tunes clip reduced down to exactly the length I want it, and I have it sandwiched up against my footage. The next thing I'm going to do is add the TV effect, which I have to go in here and delete the audio. And then I need to find the static loop and put it in here. And these TV static clips are almost always half a second, so we're going to reduce it down to 1/2 of 1 second. Get rid of the excess. Make sure the audio gain on both is set exactly where I need it to be. Love their donuts.
Look, I'm Sergeant, and what I say goes. So go!
Let's have a look. Really love their donuts.
Look, I'm Sergeant, and what I say goes. So go!
Okay, we have the cartoon part in here, followed by the 1/2 second of the TV static, and it goes right back to me. So let's move on to the next effect. Okay, we're going to make a quick stop right here just to transition from the shaving to the post-shaver view. So I'm going to zoom out. I already cut off where I want the footage on this end to stop, and then we just got to get rid of all the excess. Looks like right here is where it needs to catch up with us, so I'm going to go ahead and put the transition point right about there, get rid of the excess footage, zoom out, move it over, and go to the clock wipe. And right here is where I have to add the peel out sound effect, and this usually has a -7 decibels. Okay, this was a thumbs up review, so I'm going to go ahead and take the thumbs up and put it right here, and then get the correct answer ding and put it in. And this actually has to be a -11 because for some reason it's a really loud clip. So -11. Skip over to the end, cut off the excess of the thumbs up, and that effect is in place. And here we have arrived at the end of the video, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off the excess of this. And this actually needs a dip to black 1 second transition. All these transitions are exactly 1 second. So if there's, let's go back to this one, it's 1/2 a second on one side and 1/2 a second on the other, just FYI. Then we go ahead and add the thumbnail one more time, and this time it needs to be 11 seconds. So it's at 18:18, it needs to be at 29. Scroll all the way over to 29. Lengthen the image to 11 seconds. Bring it back over to the left. Now we have to do the transition out song, which is this one right here. Now, where I usually cut it off is right about here. That's where it goes into the final 11 seconds of the thumbnail. So I just have to zoom out and take that transition point, that natural transition point in the song, and put it right about there. Zoom way in, and exactly right there is where it goes. And this also needs to be a -11, otherwise it's way too loud. Go over to the end here, cut off the excess, do a fade out of the audio, and do another dip to black 1 second. And when it's all said and done, this is what the clip looks like zoomed all the way out. The next step is to render all this, which is where we take all these clips and compress them into one MP4. And that takes about half an hour. Well, maybe not half an hour, about 20 minutes to render all this. So I will go ahead and skip over that, and I will see you on YouTube when we upload this thing. Alright, the video has been fully rendered. Now, the rest of this is only probably going to be interesting to you if you do not tend to upload videos. If you're just a watcher and you're not a content creator, this might be kind of cool, but if you're somebody who makes videos a lot, then you've seen this a million times. It's not going to be that interesting. So to create a post on YouTube, you go to Create, Upload Videos, select File, and we have to go to this one right here, which is the YouTube video we just created. And I have a name for this. It's actually going to be the 218th video. 345 Soap Company Night Shift, Yates Titanium 921M, and Shave Mac. The title usually only includes the soap, the aftershave, the razor, and the brush. And if it's a matching aftershave, then I just kind of leave it as is. The description I'll worry about when it gets closer to this video going live, so I'm going to leave this blank for now. The thumbnail has to be taken off of the desktop, and we got to use the smaller one that we created just for this. There we go. And then the only thing that I touch after that is way down here where I put my location. I actually put that in there on purpose, because what have I got to hide? The rest of this stuff I generally don't touch. Most of it is carryover from the last time I uploaded a video. The settings just kind of carry forward. So I'm going to hit next. I don't touch any of this yet. Now the checks are going to be done automatically once the video is done being uploaded, so you don't really do anything with this either. And then for visibility, this thing has to go up after March 2nd. As you can see down here, it is the 20th of February, so it's going to be sitting on YouTube for a while before it goes live. So this is going to be a March 4th video. It's a Saturday video, and those always go live at 8 a.m. in Detroit. And then we hit schedule, and then it will sit there and upload until it's 100% uploaded, and then it will process the high definition version, which takes even more time. So altogether I think it takes about a half an hour for a 15 to 17 minute video to get fully uploaded to YouTube. And that's about the size of it. That's how my YouTube videos are edited and uploaded to YouTube. Questions or comments, put them in the comment section of the video, or if you got some constructive criticism, I would love to hear it. Until next time, this is Soap Thing telling you, shave like you mean it, and I will see you next time.